great pleasure to say hello to our next guest.
Thanks, Baz. Our next guest has had boots on the ground in the Ukraine since the conflict began.
We saw a missile fired at an airport just south of here. Seems to suggest that Mr. Putin intends to invade all of the Ukraine, not just part of it.
No West Australian has been working harder than this man.
Yes, I'm going downstairs, going underground.
He holds a record for most puffer jackets on screen within a month and for the longest outro in history. Please welcome
Geof Parry. 7 news.
The great man, welcome.
How'd you get that? Was it a steam leak or something?
No, that was you coming from Ukraine
was a
one
really
night.
good-
It might have been the internet connection that cut out.
Yeah, it could have been that.
I got to tell you, I left more puffer jackets in Ukraine than I brought home.
Can I just say, so you can see where we sit, right? And welcome back, firstly, Geoff, and you've done
Thanks,
an
mate.
amazing job.
Thank you.
And we'll get to the ins and outs of covering a war. But you can see the screens. It's on 7. And X-Man and I and Shani, we would often turn around and go, Jeff's got another one. And the chat in here was, once every couple of days, down to the local market, I need another puffer jacket.
Well, black is very popular colour.
I bet.
So if you buy a lot of black ones, it looks like you bought a lot of puffer jackets when in fact I only bought a few.
Got one on there.
I have got-
Is that from?
I wore, no, 40 said, wear the puffer jacket. So
There was even
it's
more
the
talk.
sleeveless puffer jacket.
There was
mate.
so much talk that the puffer jackets, you could have been hit by a bullet and it wouldn't have reached your skin. It was that thick.
Are they bulletproof puffer
It looked like the
jackets?
Michelin Man.
They explode when
Do
you
they?
all the
All the
stuff
fluff.
inside them.
Yeah.
So you're laughing now, obviously,
Yeah.
but in all seriousness, I mean, you did an incredible job, and
Thanks, Baz.
everybody said the same thing, how remarkable your efforts. And we should shout out Simon Heidzik, our cameraman from 7 in Perth, who's also a world-class drone camera operator or a drone operator, and he's still there.
He is still
But the work
there.
that you both did, absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, but it's a team effort, Baz. I mean, we had Chris Reason, who's our chief
Yes.
correspondent, and he was there for a while. Then London bureau chief, Hugh Whitfeld, he
Yep.
came in. Sarah Greenhalgh, she's another reporter.
Yes.
She's our correspondent in London. She's replaced me. Simon's been there consistently, so he's been there. The day the war declared, he and Rizzo came in, but I was already there. Plus, we have a security guy who travels with us. He was with me all the time. Anzor, who was our fixer.
Yeah. It's a
and
local guy?
A local guy,
Yeah.
and was a writer before the war.
Right.
And Nikita, who was our driver, who was a third-year medical student,
Wow.
obviously not able to continue his studies, and he was our driver. They were both from Kyiv, the capital, but they travelled all around the country with us.
You did 9 weeks over there, which
Yep.
is a bloody long time. When the war is about to break, obviously work goes, well, we need to send somebody. How does it land on you?
I'll put my hand up.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I was a volunteer.
Yeah.
But we all are. Sarah, who's from London, and Jimmy, a cameraman from London, they were already there. So, it was no surprise. We just didn't know when the war would
Yeah, of
happen.
course.
Yes.
And you're not allowed to call it a war in Russia, otherwise you get jailed for 15 years.
Is that right?
Yep.
What do they
It's a
call it? A
Special military
dispute.
operation.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Might become a war soon.
Yeah.
They're theorising, but it is a war. But they were there for 5 weeks, and it was time that they got spelled because when you go in, there's no days off, there's no weekends or anything like that. You just
Yeah.
work flat out. So I'd put my hand to go in, and they said, right, you can go in and replace them. War hadn't been declared or hadn't started, and 3 days after, so they go out, and 3 days after the fun begins, and I get it.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
so I get a call about 3:20 in the morning, just before one of the sunrise crosses. I can't remember which one it was now.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, no, it was just before the 4 o'clock news, and they said, we're going early.
Okay.
War's declared. So here's some information. So you just, we're set up on the balcony,
And away you go.
and away you go. You know what it's like.
How horrific is it? And some of the images we were seeing, it's hard to comprehend, but you're there and you're seeing it, and families being devastated and driven out of their homeland. I mean, it's like the person that lives in that apartment over there
It just goes.
being told, you have to leave your house, otherwise you're gone.
2.5 million of them have left Ukraine.
Incredible.
They were estimating it's about 6 or 7 million that have been displaced, so they're not living in their homes. So they're living, a lot of them are from the east. They've come west, so they're living around Lviv and villages. They've got friends, or they've just left the country altogether. So, there was sort of quite heart-wrenching scenes of kids saying goodbye to their dads at the train station and all that sort of stuff. So, it's families broken up. wives having to leave their husbands, they leave their fathers behind. If you were 18 to 60, between 18 and 60, you're military age, so you just couldn't
You're
leave
in.
the country. You're
Yeah.
in. You're not necessarily having to fight. You just have to stay.
Yeah, you're not running away.
No. Basically you're there to defend your country, and you've got to stay. But they were sending their families. So we like to speak to so many soldiers that their families they'd sent their families west or out to relatives living in other parts of the country, and they were there with no, and still don't have any notion of how long they're going to be on the front line for.
On the other side of the coin, did you speak to the Russian soldiers, or whenever they were moving in, you guys were moving out pretty quick?
No. I mean, they were shooting. They were shooting people. They had snipers in buildings and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I think the toll on journalists is, so there's no safety. The closer you get, is about, I think there's 6 dead.
Okay.
And there's a few injured. The New York Times guy, he lost pretty much both legs.
Right.
Yeah, his producer was killed. Excuse me, his cameraman was killed. That was in Irpin, and they got they were too close, and obviously came. That's why you don't get any of the Russians.
So the media passes. You see sometimes when Black Lives Matters or whatever it was, media were allowed in. The Russians didn't let media, regardless of what you're wearing or what passes you had.
No. The press sort of sign means nothing.
Yeah, okay.
Not to them.
Yeah, interesting.
Ukraine's respected.
Yeah.
But they give you a tough time on there's so many blockades and so many sort of checkpoints, which are put up by, a lot of them put up by the villages that you drive through to get to the cities. They're just local guys who just man their checkpoints, and they want to see your documents, and occasionally you get waved through, and then you come to a big police checkpoint, usually outside one of the biggest cities, and they check all your documents, pull you over, spend half an hour proving who you are.
Do you become emotionally connected to the story, and you're seeing families being torn apart?
I mean, I got feelings like everyone else.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, you sort of try and avoid that. There's too much of it going on.
Yeah.
So, no, you just sort of try and be detached from it.
Yes.
Otherwise, you won't get through it.
I've worked with you for nearly 30 years. I know that you thrive on pressure work environments, and you live for the story, and that's not being in any way disrespectful to what is happening. But in a professional sense, how do you rate this 9-week stint that you just did overseas?
The hardest by far, and the longest without a break. So, and it's what I do for a living. Not covering war, but reporting. It was a great experience, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And I'd put my hand up to go back. I've got a bit of an attachment to it. So, something that in a perverse way I enjoyed doing. But at the same, I just acknowledge, straight at 100%, 150%, the suffering that they're going through.
Yeah.
So it's and they are a terrific people. I mean, they've shown it. Not to me, they've shown to the world. How resolute they are, and how hard that they are going to fight for their country. It's amazing. And everyone thought, no, not everyone, but the Russians certainly thought that they'd just collapse like a house of cards.
Yeah.
Completely underestimated the resolve of the people.
It's a bigger country than, until you do some research.
40 million
It's
people.
bigger than Australia, and much bigger than Australia. Yeah.
I think even their Western people are now supplying them with arms, and the Americans have been supplying them for years. Since the Russians got out, or they got their independence in 2014. And I think they're out there. They're sort of their supporters in the West thought that they weren't going to last that long.
Yeah.
They've just done a mighty job.
Australians are rightly outraged, as are indeed people from all over the world. The reason we're outraged is because people like Geof have been in there and brought the story back home. And without that work, we don't know as much about it. And therefore, we can't take a position against Putin or Russia. But because of your great work, we're able to do that. How does this end?
Well, I think it's been a longer war than probably anyone thought in the first place. The Ukrainians have had kilometres and kilometres of trenches dug in that little area of the Donbass, and people are starting to learn where the Donbass is, which was taken over by people who are sympathetic to Moscow. They're Ukrainians, but they consider themselves to be Russian. So they've had this trench warfare going on for 8 years. now the front line is a lot longer, and they're digging in again. So I mean, I don't. They've got more weaponry, so I don't think it'll turn into a World War One where it's 4 years of just trench warfare and you pop your head up and go over the top. And I think Putin hasn't got that long, and he certainly hasn't got that long. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's still possible that Putin might resolve to chemical or nuclear weapons.
Well, we hope not.
And that's why it's sort of why it's a bit like I guess the most important war that I've been involved in is because of the implications of it. It can spread. There's really a tendency for it to spread.
Your own any personal hairy moments where you thought, gee whiz, that was too close, or at night time? Was there a few along the way?
And we don't mean in the puffer jacker market where the bloke was trying to charge
we
couldn't barter him down.
Mate,
we've all had those hairy moments in the market.
Mate, no one can bargain for a puffer jacket like I can.
He said, no sale, no sale.
I walk away.
All right.
I'll go back to Australia. No.
Yeah, there was a few, and it was interesting because particularly closer you get, so in Kharkiv, who are getting missiles coming in all the time. And we're sort of right in the sort of there in the midst of it.
Do you see them in the sky going?
I didn't saw stuff that was outgoing,
right?
But no cruise missiles coming in. But you would hear them quite often, and then you'd just look to the sort of the city line, find out where the smoke
the puff was,
and you go there.
Yeah.
So, and then it was raining, and it was a bit of disappointment because you couldn't see the smoke.
Couldn't see anything. Yeah,
so,
goodness.
But
Jeff,
anyway, that's to make light of it, but it's nothing to make light of.
A remarkable job, and again, thank you, and thank you to everybody who's been there for all of the networks.
It was a team effort.
I'm sure it was, and you've all done remarkable work. And again, to Simon, who's still there and is a mate of all of ours, he continues that remarkable work. It's important work, and we're glad that you're back in one piece. And thanks for sharing some of that with us this morning.
Pleasure.
Compelling listening. There's a thing in television called Doyle's. When you work straight, you get a day off in lieu. Jeff will return to work on Christmas Day, I reckon.
Do you get a bit of danger, money?
We won't see Jeff out at Osborne Park until Christmas Day.
Every time I go past roadworks, I see someone do stop, go, stop. I think danger money. Now, if you're getting shot at in war, I hope there's some danger money for you.
Well, I'll put it towards a puffer jacket.
Yeah, please do. Good on you, Jeff. Well done. Glad you're back safely. Incredible work.